Okay, on this video series, I want to teach you guys how to make sure that you can maintain your overhead mobility into shoulder flexion just like this. This is something that I see with a lot of my patients, as people get a little bit older, they lose that ability to raise their arms all the way overhead. So one of the best ways to start with a stretch of doing this is just to hang from a bar. And preferably you would hang in a pull-up position just like this, and make sure that you dead hang, meaning you let all your muscles go and let your weight go all the way through the shoulders to help stretch it. Now if you can, then you can go up and down doing a pull up, and then also doing a chin up would help also. But just hanging from the bar is a good way to start stretching and making sure that you keep your overhead flexion. All right, so the next exercise that I like to have people do to keep that overhead mobility is to build some strength overhead. And one of the best exercises for doing this is just to do an overhead kettlebell carry. And what you want to do is make sure that when you do this overhead kettlebell carry, there's kind of two ways to do it. One, you kind of let the arm kind of sink into your rib cage here, but for this one, I want you to go as high as you possibly can. And then to make it a little bit harder, you're actually going to walk around with it. One key note to make with your form when doing this is make sure you kind of depress your rib cage and keep it down. If you flare your rib cage out like this, then you're not actually getting as much shoulder flexion and you're kind of cheating yourself. So give yourself a little bit of a stomach contraction to get that arm all the way up, and then walk around, do like 30 seconds at a time. That's a good one to keep that shoulder flexion. Okay, so the last one I showed you was the overhead kettlebell carry, just holding your arm up and walking back and forth with that. If you don't like doing that one, just doing a simple overhead press, kind of in a half kneel position, is another great one for building some strength overhead so you keep that shoulder range of motion. Same thing applies. Make sure you keep that rib cage depressed and you're not flaring out like this and then pushing up like that. Keep that rib cage depressed and then just push straight overhead, up and down, just like that. Okay, one of my favorite stretches for shoulder flexion and keeping that mobility is a kneeling box stretch. So what you're going to do is you can use a box or a chair, a pad to kneel on, put your elbows up on the box. Then you're going to sink your butt back towards your heels while controlling again that extension and rib flare. So it looks a little bit like this. All the way back, get down, put your head down as far as you can. Then you're going to take your elbows and you're going to bend your elbows and bring your hands to your back. Take a big deep breath in, big deep breath out. And you should feel some stretch in your thoracic spine and under here, kind of where your lats are. And again, that will help to promote that overhead flexion that you need. Okay, the last one I want to show you for keeping that overhead mobility and flexion in your shoulders is actually one I've shown you before, and that's using a rubber band to stretch your arm overhead. So loop it around the wrist and into your hand as shown. Get back into this lunge back position, just like this. And you're going to kind of curve to the side as your leg kind of goes back behind you. And then really relax the muscles here in your lat. Also relax the muscles in your shoulder and just really let that rubber band pull on your arm to help stretch some of the muscles around your shoulder. If you want to get a little more out of it, you can actually do kind of a contract and relax. Just like this, contract, then relax, doing 10 or 15 of those. This one's really important for those of you who like to do clean and jerks, overhead squats, some of the Olympic lifts, to make sure you keep that overhead flexion mobility.